So stop me if you've heard this one before. One Christmas Eve, a greedy, selfish man stands proud and alone when he's visited by a specter weighed down by the choices he made in life, and 3 spirits who take him through his past, present, and future to help him see the error of his ways and make him a better person.
Like A Christmas Carol? The Dickens story?
Yes, like the Dickens book and the Bill Murray movie and every other adaptation nobody asked for.
Okay, maybe you have heard this one before, but not like this. Hello everybody, I'm Kate Cass, and welcome to our edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about Spirited. Here's the thing about iconic stories that stand the test of time. They are really hard to keep telling without people getting bored, at least nowadays. While adaptations have always had deviations from the material they are adapting, in the last generation or so, as media has become more expansive and, for lack of a better word, oversaturated, there's been attempts to tell these classic stories with a twist that hopefully makes them stand out from the crowd. What if we told the story of the Wizard of Oz from the witch's point of view? What if the adventures of Sherlock Holmes took place in the modern day? What if Frankenstein's monster survived for hundreds of years and fought demons and gargoyles? Okay, that might not be the best example. Or, what if we told the story of A Christmas Carol from the perspective of the spirits? Spirited is the story of the ghost of Christmas Present, played by Will Ferrell, trying to decide between maintaining his position of changing lives every Christmas Eve or returning to the land of the living. He stakes his mission to make the world a better place on the controversial Clint Briggs, played by Ryan Reynolds, and along the way they face the past, present, and possibly the future together. When I heard the premise, I was pretty intrigued. For as many times as A Christmas Carol has been told, there's never been any expansion on the ghosts of Christmas beyond their roles as ethereal beings offering perspective to our main jerk. The only other story I've heard of that does this is a Hallmark movie called The Ghost of Christmas Always, which incredibly came out the exact same year Spirited did. Shout out to Rachel Reviews, the host of the Hallmarkies podcast, for drawing my attention to this, by the way. But this one's a musical, so it wins. Sorry, Rachel. But don't get me wrong, I had my concerns. As much as I love Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, I wasn't sure if they could carry a musical of all things. The director, Sean Anders, had only previously worked on lowbrow comedies that really weren't my thing, and the only way this movie was going to work is if they actually took advantage of its pretty strong concept. This could have gone either way, and as it got closer to the release date, I'd just sit there going, please be good. So does Spirited deliver on the potential I thought it had? Well, let's start where the movie does and talk about how they re-establish the Ghost of Christmas. In this universe, the whole Christmas Carol routine is a well-oiled operation orchestrated by spirits in the afterlife to make the world a better place, one bad egg at a time, haunting a new person every Christmas. An area of Christmas mythology being this massive organization of beings making sure it all goes exactly as it should is nothing new, but I always find it a pretty fun trope. There is something kind of hilarious about the idea of the whole Christmas Carol premise being an elaborate production to recreate important events in someone's life. Having these monumental moments assembled by festive techies, I don't know, I just kind of get a kick out of that. Plus, giving these spirits a base of operations of sorts gives us a chance to get to know the ghost before the haunt really begins. The ghosts of Christmas aren't supernatural beings existing for this one purpose, they're all people who died and are offered or assigned these roles, with the ghosts of past, present, and yet to come being the most prestigious and important roles, and Marley, played by Patrick Flipping Page, overseeing it all. Makes me wonder if someone was in charge before Marley, or if Marley started this whole system to begin with. Given how business-driven this place is, I'm kind of inclined to believe the latter. Why the Ghost of Christmas helped this one guy see the error of his ways isn't something that necessarily needed to be explained, but if you are going to give an explanation, what they give is a really good one. The philosophy of the Ghost of Christmas is that what they do creates ripples, redeeming people who make the world worse for everyone around them, so they'll treat those people better, and that kindness and generosity will ripple out farther and farther into the world. We'll be going into this more later, but for now I'll say it's a nice interpretation of the function of the Ghost of Christmas that doesn't lessen this grand role they play in the lives of mortals. I mean, if the Ghost of Christmas can rehabilitate a Karen, then truly Christmas miracles are real. But the most important thing about this organization?
This is a musical.
What is?
All of this. The afterlife.
I sincerely hope that's true. Especially if it's a musical like this. My god, Spirited has no right to be as rockin' a musical as it is. Who knew the guy who wrote Hot Tub Time Machine could direct such a dynamite musical? The set pieces are gigantic, lively, and colorful, and the cinematography brings the soundtrack already working overtime to a whole new level of life. And holy mistletoe, the choreography! The ensemble is incredible right out of the gate, and they do not slow down. Mad props to choreographer Chloe Arnold and her team. Really, the only downside to the musical side of Spirited is that they make quite a few jokes about how annoying it is that they're in a musical. I know this is a trope that bothers people, and I 100% get it, because it is the kind of thing that comes off like, in order to appeal to as many people as possible, we have to be embarrassed that we're in a musical, which is frustrating, especially to those who respect the genre. But keep in mind that this is billed as a comedy, and those self-aware moments are the easiest jokes to make about a musical. It fits the tone, and they do calm down on those jokes as the movie goes on. But the highlight is far and away the music itself, composed by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul.
What?
You're a reviewer friend of mine,
Yeah?
and you hate Pasek and Paul musicals.
I mean, I've been known to have a distaste for them here and there, yes?
Aren't you going to barge in and tell me this one sucks too?
Oh, no. Believe it or not, I actually really like this movie.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, for once, the music actually fits the story and works alongside the characters. And to be fair, it's also, legitimately speaking, the most creative version of A Christmas Carol that I've ever seen. It's good stuff.
Really? Wow, what do you know? Spirited can redeem people in so many ways.
Even though, it really just goes to show that Pasek and Paul really only know how to do generic cheesy pop garbage. And once again, these two cannot go more than two musicals without having a damn subplot involving a teenage suicide.
Okay, well, thanks for stopping by, Sebastian, and we did a collab together. Check it out. Bye! Even though these guys have written some iconic songs and banger hits for many musicals, this might actually be my favorite soundtrack of theirs yet. The songs work really well alongside the story the movie is telling, and play to the strengths of the cast. No one here is Broadway caliber, aside from Paige of course, but the songs cater to the strengths they do have, and they all sound really good. I was especially impressed by our two leads. Right from the start of his first big number, Ryan Reynolds is killing it. I wasn't even sure he could sing, and I admittedly tensed up waiting to see how he would sound when the music started, but he's stealing the show here, as he often does. And I was really surprised at how soulful and emotional Will Ferrell's songs were. He did a really good job. Especially considering I know him best as a singer from...
Haben Sie gehört, das Deutsche war?
Not exactly a sentimental number, but to understand why the soundtrack is probably the best Pasek and Paul has produced so far, we need to talk about how they function alongside the story and characters. So let's finally go a bit deeper into that. Spirited not just stands out for its different point of view on this classic story, but also how it modernizes the ideas in A Christmas Carol. Take our jerk for the story, Clint Briggs. Clint's work revolves around consulting businesses and influential people on inciting outrage for his own self-gain. Making our Scrooge equivalent obsess over creating hate and discourse on social media might make some people cringe at just how modern it is. But it's not just a modern element placed into a timeless story, it's incorporating a part of society that's developed since. Like it or not, social media is here to stay. It's a fundamental part of how we all interact with the world. And if we want to tell a modern story about morality and embracing your fellow man, we do have to address it, because the depressing truth that we all know and yet all participate in is that in an era where everyone has a platform and are trying to be heard over thousands of other voices, is that spreading hate, no matter what form it takes, is the easiest way to get a reaction. Clint has learned how to profit off of that natural toxicity. His enticing nature and obvious success tempts people to stoop to his level, believing that's the only way to succeed. Like with his assistant Kimberly, played by Octavia Spencer, and soon with his niece Ren, played by Marlo Barkley, who he tries to pass his underhanded tactics onto. Heck, Kimberly gets a whole song about how tough it is to walk away from success, even if it tears away at your conscience. Clint's big introductory song song, Bringing Back Christmas, might be one of the most brilliant things Pasek and Paul have written because it captures this so perfectly. Instigating things you know are going to make people angry, but doing it because it makes you feel like a smarter person or that you're trying to reclaim something you didn't lose. And doing it on a pedestal in the most bombastic way possible.
If you want your sales to soar, it's not enough for folks to love you. They gotta hate your rivals more.
It's a show, an act, one he's put on so much that he's even convinced himself that it's flawless. If the world is going to be miserable anyway, why not gain something from it? Well, because a bunch of holiday-themed specters might have something to say about it. And for how much the story is updated, this movie still keeps intact what's so cathartic about A Christmas Carol. These greedy people who think they know everything about the world being thrown off immediately by the existence of spirits and how they don't really know anything. While Clint interrupting the ghost's first act is funny, it's a shame the song had to suffer for it. Giving Patrick Page the half song is a crime. But it's okay, he got his revenge. Going into the haunting routine is where the modern updates of the story and the new character point of view come together. Clint is slowly but surely proving himself to be an unusual perp for the ghost to take on, and they get thrown off by it really quickly as the whole operation slowly crumbles. On top of ruining Marley's entrance, the Ghost of Christmas Past, played by Sunita Mani, checks out of the mission after her and Clint, how do I put this?
Is that sex, Lemon?
Is the way I do it.
Good for you.
Just saying.
So it's up to Present to carry the weight. Remember, this story is still the one of the Ghost of Christmas Present. The funny thing is, though, is that the focus is set back on him when Clint tries to resist the ghost's tactics to make him confront his past by redirecting them at his haunters. He starts interrogating Present on his own life and what he wants. Remember, unlike in the original tale, the ghosts were humans once before, who had desires, wanted to stand out, and made mistakes. As much as Present is thrown off by someone questioning him, it's not enough to distract him from his mission. Because Present knows these tactics all too well. Not because he's done this routine a couple hundred times at this point, but because he's been where Clint has before. For you see, in life, Present was...
He's an asshole.
Close.
Yes.
Mr. Scrooge?
I was not expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
The twist that Present was Ebenezer Scrooge in life was the moment where Spirited was elevated for me. I was ready to have fun with this movie and its cute premise, but this was where I realized it could be something so much more if they build on this twist correctly. So, let's talk about how well they did. At first, the reveal felt to me like it gave Scrooge a nice ending. When we last saw him, he was spreading fortune and goodwill to everyone around him, and now in the afterlife, he passes on that gift to many others that are as awful as he once was. But as we soon see, it's a bit more complicated than that. See, in this version, Scrooge only lived for a few weeks after Christmas. Initially, I was kind of bothered by this, but in the context of just this story, and not projecting it onto any other version of A Christmas Carol, it's fascinating. Clint brings up the question of how does he know he really changed when he didn't even last for a month on Earth after that fateful Christmas Eve? And judging by the way he looks at his past self and just how determined he's been to change Clint, another one deemed unredeemable, that might be something he's been asking himself too. Perhaps Present's determination to redeem as many people as possible and make the world a better place is a way to assure himself that it really is possible when he didn't get to prove it himself. That if he had lived for longer, he would have remained a good person. But since he doesn't know for sure, he's being the best, most selfless person he possibly can be as the Ghost of Christmas Present. This is where the movie got really compelling to me, raising questions of what it really means to be a good person. What does it even mean to be redeemed? Although another question that comes to mind is, why does Present not have his accent anymore? I don't know, maybe after how poorly Holmes and Watson was received, Farrell can only handle doing a British accent in small doses.
What happened to your accent?
What happened to yours?
It strikes an intriguing balance between our two leads. Suddenly, the roles have shifted. Before, Clint was asking Present personal questions because he was trying to turn the focus away from him. Now, he's genuinely curious. It's a nice way of showing that someone can be more open to what you're trying to teach them if you show them that you know how they feel. While Present tries to go back into the ghostly routine, even taking a more traditional angle to guiding Clint, it doesn't work, no matter how elaborate his methods are.
That's just fun to watch.
I cannot emphasize enough how funny it is to see Reynolds get knocked around so much in this movie. While Present is conveying the consequences of Clint's actions like he wants, at the same time, Clint won't let up on trying to get Present to do something for himself. At one point, it's almost like Clint becomes the spirit, showing Present what his life on Earth could be like and offering to help him get there. He even tries to get Present to blow off some steam after being a goody two-shoes for so long. Understandably though, Present is hesitant to indulge in those habits, but let's remember that when Clint is persuasive, he's very persuasive. In song.
Good afternoon! Good afternoon!
Good Afternoon was the very last song written for the movie. Apparently because they thought the joke was so good, it needed to be a song, and they were right. It's a great song that has ruined the phrase forever. Just destroyed. I can safely say, a year later, it has never sounded the same since. Of course this is the one they campaigned to get nominated for Best Original Song, and they didn't even make the cut! I blame Hugh Jackman. The relationship between Clint and Present changes significantly after this reveal. While Present tries to get Clint to enrich the lives of others rather than just himself, Clint tries to get Present to see that altruism shouldn't come at the expense of personal happiness. It's such an important point of view to include. Two sides of the same extreme coin. For all the time these two are motivated by assuring themselves that their own choices were good choices, over the course of the film, they start to develop a really nice friendship which supersedes that, where they start to truly want what's best for the other. No matter how much they try to build those barriers between human and spirit back up, they keep getting knocked down, because they've gotten to know each other over this Christmas Eve, and see each other as people rather than obstacles now. One of the most important scenes in the movie to me is when they revisit the memory of Clint seeing his sister Carrie on her deathbed and denying her her last request. Not only is this very reminiscent of my favorite scene from my favorite version of A Christmas Carol, the Alistair Sim one, but watch how Present leads Clint into it.
Please don't do this. Come on, man.
You can do it. Come on. I'm here with you the whole way.
Before, he was pushing Clint through one of the worst moments of his life to get a reaction and accomplish a mission, but this time, he eases him into it, assures him that no matter what he's about to feel, what he has to deal with, Present will be there for him the entire time. Really, the only downside of this scene is that Present never once brings up that he's been where Clint has when it comes to losing his sister. Maybe they were worried that if they mentioned how similar Clint and Scrooge's stories are too much, it would make it feel like just a cheap copy, but I don't know. They already established a connection and how selfish and greedy they both are. I think that extra dose of Present trying to get Clint to appreciate the family he has left, like his brother and his niece, would have been another added moment of perspective that Present could offer. Then again, I really like those "we're not so different, you and I" kind of moments, so maybe that's just something I want. Flipping the coin after facing that, Clint forces Present to confront his own doubts. Again, before, this was about distracting the ghost so he wouldn't have to go through the program. When this began, he was so afraid of confronting his bad choices and the harsh realities that go with them that he literally breaks down the entire system the ghost set up trying to run away. But now that he has, it's about doing the same for someone who's in denial just as much as he is. Present says over and over again that it's not about him.
It's not about me. Clint, how many times do I have to tell you it's not about me?
Because his role in this Christmas Carol routine has been to look out for the well-being of others, being a nameless specter to teach a lesson and disappear into the night. Characters with a selfless nature are often seen as taking it too far, thinking so much of others that they see their own wants and needs as unimportant or downright selfish. I am admittedly guilty of this kind of thing myself, and that's not productive. Putting others' needs ahead of your own is nice and kind, but that shouldn't come completely at the expense of your own well-being. Much Much like Present was for him, Clint is there for him when he's too scared to confront the possibility of changing, which is what gives Present the strength to face that choice of going back to Earth that's been looming over him the entire movie. This leads to perhaps my favorite song in the movie, and really the one they should have campaigned to get Best Original Song, Unredeemable.
Am I forever unredeemable? Can I be a man who breaks from a lifetime of mistakes?
It conveys all of Present's fears and desires perfectly. Being human again isn't just about maybe getting his reward after centuries of serving others, it's about confronting a world that he spent most of his time in being a greedy asshole. He's worried that, if given the chance to live a life again, he'll just fall back into his old ways. But he won't know unless he tries. He'll always just be a ghost, looking at the world from the outside. What starts to lure him into taking his retirement is this crush he develops on Kimberly, seeing someone he admires and wants to get closer to so much that he subconsciously makes it so Kimberly can see him. Somehow. That desire to interact with her is apparently enough to bring them closer when they should be in entirely different realms. In fact, seeing Kimberly draws Present closer to the decision to become human again, only to be stopped once again by the fears of his past self, and how insistent he once was that he wasn't going to change. God, the direction is amazing in this movie. Will Ferrell absolutely sells this too. You can see all that fear and doubt and longing right on his face. The brilliant lighting work, the encouraging nod Clint gives him when he starts to hesitate, all the other ghosts cheering him on with a callback to a song that was cut from the final film, but the sentiment is still there and it's really nice. It's fantastic stuff, and easily the powerhouse number of the film for me. So yeah, Scrooge is human again.
I'm human again, only human again.
Or Roberto, as he's calling himself now, but I'm just gonna stick with Present for consistency's sake. I do love these couple of minutes of Present's boundless excitement at being alive in the modern world, and that Clint is genuinely happy for him and even helps psych him up to ask Kimberly out.
Do you want to go somewhere and maybe...
Do you want to go eat food?
Hey, at least I restrained myself from making an Elf reference for about as long as the movie did.
You look stupid.
Okay, you look stupid.
Even though there's still more movie to go, I really felt how far these two have come in such a short time, and that was kind of sweet. Except, I know he's still getting used to being alive again, but Preston really should have borrowed a coat or something before taking a stroll along the East River in the middle of December. Does he not remember his cause of death? However, just because we've reached these revelations doesn't mean these character arcs are complete. This is just a lead into the third act. Preston may be embracing life back on Earth, but he's still so insecure about the person he used to be and worried he'll become again. Even a remotely selfish act like using too much hot water in the shower makes him panic. So while he's willing to try, he hasn't proven anything to himself yet. Meanwhile, don't forget, Clint's got one more ghost on the docket. If we're comparing Clint's life to Scrooge's, so far we've had a Cratchit, a Fred, and a lost love. But who's our tiny Tim? The innocent soul who shows our greedy jerk that their actions have consequences, and devastating ones too. Well, for this story, that's him. This is Josh. Josh is running against Ren for student body president. When Ren goes to her uncle for advice on how to win, he tells her to post a deleted video of his in a campaign to hurt his credibility and publicly humiliate him. I want to take this time to emphasize that this is an 8th grade election, but Clint is so tunnel vision that he doesn't see much of a problem with this. Personally, I think this movie does a really good job depicting just how terrifying the mob mentality of social media and the grandstanding it elicits is. The idea that just one problematic thing that you post can be dug up, even if you took it down, even if you don't mean it anymore, and destroy your life in less than a day is absolutely terrifying. And it happens all the time. Low-key, this kind of thing keeps me up at night. For someone like Clint, who lives on perpetual discourse, consulting on how to do it well, the most important thing for him to learn is to see what happens when those posts go too far. After all, one of the most important themes in A Christmas Carol is to see how self-absorbed actions can have a larger effect on the world around you. A message that is painfully relevant to the landscape of social media and our roles in it. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come forces Clint to see what his blind actions could lead to.
Wait, what are you telling me, the kid? Because of a little online dust-up?
Is this a bit extreme and perhaps heavy for a Christmas comedy? Maybe, but it's a sobering reminder that no matter what you say to or about someone, there is always a person on the other side. It's that same level of indirect misery from the original story, updated. You may not have meant for this to happen, but if it does, you will play a major part in that happening. And can you live with yourself if it does? Thankfully, the movie has endeared us enough to Clint by now to know that he's not a monster, so while he is still somehow not on board with the redemption program, he'll try his best to correct this one thing. Racing to find Ren and stop her from posting what will start this domino effect on a rooftop skating rink? Who has a rooftop skating rink? That just sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen. But in yet another moment where Spirited deviates from the traditional Christmas Carol story, Clint doesn't stop Ren from making that post, Kimberly does. Which was a great moment for her, by the way. She didn't need a bunch of holiday-specific ghosts to tell her what right and wrong was, she just needed the courage to act when she knew she could change something. But against the belief to the contrary, Clint still hasn't been redeemed. While he was willing to take back his advice, he didn't stop that tragedy, Kimberly did. He is against teaching these tactics to his niece, but he is more than willing to go back to doing what he was doing before, which sends Present into a spiral, and for a minute, it seems like he is about to head back to where he was at the beginning of the film too. The way the story resolves is the best and final way Spirited updates A Christmas Carol, and was the main reason I wanted to review it. How the movie defines what it really means to be redeemed. Rather than having a single epiphany that completely turns your life around, changing for the better is something you work at with every choice you make. There's no one single instance that makes someone a good or bad person. It's a choice everyone makes every day. Maybe one day you'll help someone in need, then the next you'll indulge in a bad habit. Maybe you'll go from brightening someone's day to cursing them out on social media. You shouldn't judge someone based on one choice, but at the same time, every choice has ripples to consider. All anyone can do is their best. Redemption isn't about waking up one morning and deciding to only do good deeds forever. It's about trying your best to be better than you were before. And falling short of that doesn't automatically make you a bad person, it just makes you strive to try better next time. And having someone there to point you in the right direction, someone you want to be better for, makes it all the easier. The big final number, Do a Little Good, does a great job driving this theme home. That and it's really catchy. Also, this is a small thing, but I love how the lyrics are scrolling along on the bus sign throughout the entire song. That's cute. A lot of the growth this song displays is due to our two leads looking out for each other. After all, the thing that gives Present the confidence to try again and make a life for himself is the encouragement he gets from Clint, and the thing that ultimately redeems Clint is actually doing a selfless act by putting his life at risk to save Presence. Just the knowledge that he was willing to do that is enough to send these two off into the sunset that is Christmas Day. Oh!
Sure felt like a finale to me. No.
You can't kneel down in the middle of a highway and live to talk about it, son.
Not gonna lie, this movie earned a lot of respect from me for that. Now, I don't mind a character sacrifice being reversed if they earned another chance. It's fiction, and sometimes I want characters to make big choices but still be happy. But so often I see people complain about it when it happens. To see this movie have its upbeat number and then say, nah man, you're only a better person because you jumped in front of a bus, now it's time to pay up, only makes me want to recommend it to people more.
But your sacrifice would have no meaning if it had no consequence.
Besides, it's not a completely somber ending. I truly love how this movie ends with our stars essentially swapping roles, but putting their own spins on it. Present settles down, getting the second chance at life he felt he didn't deserve, and not being afraid to get angry once in a while when the situation calls for it. Meanwhile, it was clear when Present was pushing this what if onto Clint that it wasn't exactly something he wanted. Another little instance I like of showing that happily ever after doesn't look the same for everyone. So instead of walking into the light and that sweet goodnight, like the opportunist he is, he takes another option, taking over as the ghost of Christmas Present. He's basically using all of his business running experience to enhance the productivity of the GCs. He essentially fulfilled the potential Present saw in him with his powers being used for good now, but it's also really funny how he pretty much runs this place now. Oh, also, him and Past are in a loving, committed relationship now. Another thing I did not see coming. The whole epilogue to me has this nice sense of every character getting where they wanted to be, but getting there in unusual ways, and are much different people from when they started. Like any good Christmas Carol story, it all works out for the best by being the best person you can be. and then singing about it. Overall, Spirited was way, way, way more impressive than I expected it to be. One of the worst sins a movie can commit to me is having lots of potential and wasting it with lackluster execution, and I was so worried that's what this was going to be. However, Spirited not only lived up to the potential of its premise, in my eyes, it exceeded it in ways I couldn't have predicted. On the surface, it's already easy to recommend as a fun holiday watch. The cast is strong, the musical numbers are lively and unbelievably catchy, a lot of the jokes work, especially the physical comedy, and the direction is impeccable. Look at this shot of them just sitting in Clint's apartment. Why is this shot so pretty? Telling the story from the Ghost of Christmas's point of view could have just been a cheap gimmick, but instead it's used as a vehicle to explore what the mission of these festive specters and the result of their haunt really is. The original Christmas Carol took place in a time where changing the world didn't extend much further than your own community, even for the wealthy. Now in a time where we're exposed to everything that is wrong with the world at all times, it can be difficult to want to put in the effort when you don't feel like anything important is changing. However, Spirited makes the smart move to address this crisis in humanity, but have that larger scope motivate our two leads and eventually refocus on helping each other. Not only does it have a nice updated Scrooge with Clint, but we also have our classic Scrooge in here as well, long after his redemption, but still not sure if he was redeemed. I absolutely adore this moral duality, how it's just as possible to be too selfless as it is too selfish. The message that just trying your best is enough to be redeemed sometimes is such an important one and a marvelous update on the classic tale. Driving all this home is the characters themselves. Present, Clint, and even Kimberly are all stuck in one position or mindset, but through their experiences together and the conversations they have about how they see themselves or each other, they become inspired and challenged to venture out and grow as people. Much like those ripples Present keeps talking about, our choices and actions are motivated by the influence of others. Being selfless is easier when you have people around you want to be selfless for, and while it is great to put others' needs ahead of your own, that should not come completely at the expense of looking out for yourself. And that's easier to do when you have other people around looking out for you who want you to be happy. Reinforcing that even making a small difference in your community makes a big difference in the long run that results in everlasting change, not just at Christmas, but all year long. Take it from me. I didn't intend to add a personal touch to this review, but as I was typing out how much people can be influenced and made better by the company they keep, I couldn't help but relate. This community I've built and the friends I've made over the last 8 years has made me want to be better whenever I get the chance. They inspire me, they challenge me, they motivate me with shared enthusiasm, encourage me to do things I never had before, and are just there to be supportive and believe in me even when I don't. I've always been kind of a late bloomer, so I always appreciate stories that show that it's never too late to be better than you were. Sometimes you just need the right push, and that doing a little good can go a long way. Every few years, a new version of A Christmas Carol comes out, and if they really want people to tune in, they tend to make claims that their version is going to reinvent the classic story. Spirited actually succeeds at that. From its new point of view to bringing it into the 2020s, to re-examining its themes of redemption and growth, if you truly want to see this classic story told in a new way this holiday season, I cannot recommend Spirited enough. I guess all that's left to say is... Good afternoon! What? No, we don't use that kind of language here. Ugh. What I was gonna say was, happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in 2024. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Definitely let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments below. That's why the series is called Let's Talk About. I want to give a very special thanks to my patrons who help support my content, including Chelsea Crandall, Dave L. Sproul, Hawk Hero, Jinx Productions, and Wait in the Wings. If you'd like to join these fine people in supporting my content while getting cool exclusive perks, you can check out my Patreon page at the link in the description, as well as my other social media if you'd like to check any of those. Thank you so much again for watching, have a happy and safe holiday season, and I will see you guys next time.